Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly, loud and clear.
Yes. How are you doing?
Well, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I have I have two totally unsupported conspiracy theories, which
Okay.
neither of which I believe, but
Yes.
they're original to me. In other
Okay.
words,
Yeah. Okay.
I thought of these. I didn't see them.
Yes.
Okay. The first one is that it was a very carefully staged photo op.
Yes.
Okay, like the moon landing,
Yes. Yep.
nobody really died.
Yep.
The point was to get the photograph of him with his fist in the
Yeah.
air, blood on his ear.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right. The second one, which frightens me even more,
Sure.
is that it was. Well, I think that's my dinner being delivered. Can you hold on a second?
Sure. Sure.
Apologies.
No
I,
worries.
I thought it would take exactly as long as this conversation to deliver, like, 45 minutes. And it came in like 3 minutes.
Oh
So
wow. Oh okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I, it may not be mine, but I'm going to eat it anyway.
Yeah. Right. What did you get? What did
So
you order?
um, exactly what I ordered the last time, because that was easier.
Yeah.
Scallion pancakes and
Ooh.
ramen. So
Ooh.
yeah,
That sounds yes. Yes.
Kung
Okay.
Fu Kitchen.
Okay.
So
All right. So your second theory.
the second theory is the Republican National Committee organized this because they wanted to take Donald Trump out, because if they
Oh,
take him out,
right.
he's a martyr and he is
Yes.
replaced by somebody who has a brain and no felonies, and who
And
can
no
then march
and
forward
yeah.
with his mantle.
Yes.
They will get more votes than Donald Trump would.
Yes. Okay. Um,
I don't believe either of
no,
these,
no, no, I do
but
no. I don't believe it. No, no, no. But I believe the plausibility. Okay, here's the thing. The first one's already not been floated, but suggested that it will take traction, and that's by Bill Maher, who I do not like at all. Since the '80s, he's been very responsible for the specific brand of kind of both sidesing that's got us exactly where we are now, where you say, someone who is clearly racist or sexist or homophobic has an equal right to a platform as anyone else, and through his whole sort of political correctness brand really pushed very right-wing theories while claiming himself to be a liberal or a Democrat, and I don't buy it. Also, he's a lousy tipper. When I waited on him at scores, he was a lousy tipper, and he treated the dancers like crap. So I don't like Bill
I
Maher.
mean, that nails it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it actually does. How you treat the help really does. But I don't like Bill Maher at all. However, I think every take he said is correct, which is one, whether this was intentional, of course, there are going to be those who suggest it is. This does play very much into Donald Trump. The picture, the blood, the martyrdom, the victim, they are the
He's
party.
also Superman. He's Superman
Oh no,
now.
no, no! Joe Biden can't even string two sentences together, and he's deflecting bullets.
He
No, no, no! I
ducks
know.
bullets.
It
Right.
couldn't possibly. I mean, it couldn't possibly be better staged. That being said, before yeah, no. Before more was revealed about the shooter, including that he is a registered Republican, though he did donate to Act Blue one time for $15. Um, I knew instinctively that it was not a liberal, and this is why. Not because I don't believe the liberals would sink to violence, because they do. Not because I don't believe liberals wouldn't sink to gun violence, because I do. But because I don't believe liberals would specifically use an AR-15. That is, I mean, that is a marker of a demographic of people who does not Venn diagram with liberals, even though there are fringe liberals, extremist liberals, violent liberals, all that. I just don't believe they would use an AR-15. So that was my first take. Yes, so it's not surprising to find out it's a never Trumper Republican, whatever his intentions were. Yeah, I think exactly like you said, because of Project 2025, the Republican Party is they're attached to Trump, but they don't love him, and they would love to have someone else who, like you said, has all his traits but not the baggage. So they don't really care if they don't really care. Um, but yeah, in the long term, I mean, what this means for our election, what this means. I know Biden's supposed to give a speech tonight. I think I think this is all going to play for it's going to work. It plays in Trump's favor, and that's yeah. Um,
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if his base can be more energized, but
right,
there's going to be a fringe, people who are on the fringe of his base who tip his way because they feel sorry for him or whatever, I
right.
think. I don't think it's going to mean independents will vote for him. Um,
I do. I mean, I think if something like 60% of the country doesn't consider themselves a Democrat or a Republican at all, um, and especially in those swing states, I think, and especially if, well, knowing him and his people, spin this the right way, hammer it in over and over and over. They're the party of hate. They're the party of intolerance. They're the party. Look what they did, but I'm still here fighting for you. I think it's going to be a very compelling message, even to people who in the past, I think there are going to be people in the past who were anti-Trumpers who are now like, quote unquote, the final straw, or, oh, wow, and again, it doesn't matter that that all evidence will point out that it was a Republican who did this. They're
no,
going
it
to
doesn't
spin,
matter.
yeah, they're going to spin it the way they spin it. Um,
So, do you think Joe will give in?
I mean, we're still talking about it. Um, okay, here's what I know. Joe Biden is 28 points ahead of Trump with young people in particular. So when we talk about energizing young voters, the same one. I mean, yes, and people assume because of um, uh, young voters' stances on Palestine that Joe is vulnerable, and I think compared to 2020, that is definitely true. And I think overwhelmingly economics is the issue, and that's also an area where the, the incumbent is almost always vulnerable. I don't think he is, and I don't think he should. Actually, I think there have been a lot of calls, whether it's from people in Hollywood, whether it's from politicians. Though the long list of politicians are mostly reps. They're mostly state reps. They're not. It's not really the part. I mean, the big party people like Bernie are still sticking by him, and the polls show yeah, the debate wasn't great for him, but it wasn't actually terrible. It's the lack of faith from his own party is what he's fighting right now more than his poll numbers because of a bad debate. Um,
Yeah, I have to say, I was very surprised that Nancy
mhm.
Pelosi said Well, he's going to decide. I'll let him decide when he has said over and over and over again that he has decided.
Mm-hmm.
So she's on the that puts her on the fence.
Right.
That puts the
Right.
Bernie had an op-ed in the Times yesterday, which was
Yes.
like 100%
Yep.
for Biden, you
Yep.
know. And if you think there's a vulnerability that has to do with any aspect of health, you've got to, do you believe in the vice president? Do you believe that, I mean, people should believe that the woman who's been vice president for 4 years is capable of stepping into the presidency, right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's part of the Constitution,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If the guy falls over dead, then there's somebody else, but
And
don't push him over.
this okay. This is going to sound radical, and again, I am not. To me, this is about beating Trump, and it's not about. Her polling numbers are actually worse than Biden's. They, rather than considering him pulling out and putting her top of the ticket, they should consider running him with someone else, and someone who the Republicans can't use as a, if it's not him, it's going to be her, because she's the boogeyman that they actually have ads now saying this is who you're actually voting for. And that's what they were saying even before the debate. That's what their claim that, well, her or Michelle Obama, which again is just a very the thinnest of thinly veiled misogynoir, like the threat of a black woman. But I mean, it's
racist and everything else. Yeah.
but it's effective to the people they're effective to. And we live in a society where not enough people will call them out, so they can just keep saying it. And winking at the people who need to hear that, who they want to hear that message. So again, the argument that yes, Kamala Harris could step in on day one, which they made Joe Biden talk about at his press conference. Yeah, she could, but that's actually their fear. That works against them, not for them, in this weird topsy-turvy.
So Hakeem Jeffries, you think somebody like him? I mean, it won't happen. But
What? No, I do. I actually, I think of everyone who has spoken on this. Gretchen Whitmer, along with Bernie, was very well. First of all, she is chairman of Biden-Harris election campaign, so of course she's going to be, despite the fact that she is one of the people whose name just keeps coming up over and over and over. And she was very gracious. She was actually on NPR pushing her book, which just came out this week. But of course, they're going to ask her, hey, people are suggesting you for the presidency. And she was very gracious. And she said, look, I appreciate that people are saying that I have skills they believe could translate. There is a deep bench of talent on the Democrats right now. And she name checked Gavin Newsom and I think Jay Inslee and a couple others. And that talent will be here in 4 years. This isn't the time for the power play, guys. Is what she, I mean, it almost felt like she was speaking to her contemporaries, not even to the general audience when she was pitching. Now's not the time to waver in your support. And so I am, but I think that hesitance, it's not even just this particular election, that hesitance where this goes back years and years and years. This goes back to a year before an election. I mean, it's literally 1 year before an election, them saying, oh, well, I guess if the Republicans hold up Merrick Garland's he would have been a Supreme Court justice, but I guess if they hold it up, maybe they have a point. We're not really sure. It could be election interference. Meanwhile, Amy Coney Barrett, literally 3 weeks before an election, well, we'll just go ahead and approve it because Trump nominated someone. They had every right to say, no, we want more than 3 weeks, let alone we're not going to rush this before an election. They waver over and over and over, whereas the Republicans never ever hesitate. They never go off message.
They pushed it through. They held Obama up for a year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, there's no that even with that, even saying, well, here's the precedent that you set, still no courage to yeah, so I think I, I, I don't think Biden is going to cost Democrats the presidency, but I think Democrats' hesitation is going to cost them the presidency, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think
Um,
I don't know.
did you catch the press conference? I mean, now it already feels like old news, but
I, uh, um, I'm trying to think. No,
you probably, yeah,
I saw bits of it.
yeah,
But of course they played the worst bits of it over and over again. Even
yes,
the liberal media, I mean, this is really,
yeah,
you know, Trump can, Trump can talk nonsense
yep,
and totally confuse people. And he's allowed to do it because he's an idiot, right?
yeah, no, and yeah, no,
And
and
Joe
I knew,
Biden is allowed to do it. I mean, there's a real disconnect between the way even the liberal media are treating him. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah, and I mean,
I mean, the guy, I did catch some of it, and it certainly he had an acute grasp of foreign relations. I mean, he didn't stumble. I mean,
he
he
didn't
had that,
stumble. No, yeah,
and I don't think that's because he rehearsed. I think it's because that's the stuff he really knows. I mean, he does know stuff, and
yeah,
he has done stuff, and I
no, I
think that we're judging him on his ability to be a talking head on TV.
yeah,
Or not.
I think yes, and I, well, no, I listened to the whole thing on NPR. I didn't watch it, so I didn't see like all facial expressions and all of that, which can go into. Yes, right before the press conference, he said, with Vladimir Zelensky present, he called him Putin, and then during the press conference, he said
But he caught himself.
he said
He
Vice
caught.
President Trump. He caught himself though the first time at least and said, "Yeah, I'm Putin's on my mind because I want to beat him." He caught himself, but of course that doesn't get as widely reported. Nor, of course, did as many people watch the press conference. So it didn't matter. It almost didn't. You okay? It almost didn't matter how he did, but he yeah, like you said, he talked for 50 minutes, took questions from a variety of sources, including Fox, and said, go easy on me, which got a laugh even from the Fox News. But yeah, and he was very sharp. He got his numbers straight when he didn't, or when he wasn't sure. He just said, don't quote me on this, or don't, but it's around, or but he did, I think he did very, very well. The problem is it doesn't matter because not enough people saw it, and or what they did see were chopped up clips, not the whole thing, which really spoke to his stamina and really spoke to what he said and what really did sound like excuses following the debate, which is he had a bad night, which everyone has, which, I also, and this is interesting, because the biggest slips he made were when he was talking about Trump, when he was talking about Putin. I wonder how much of an effect being on a stage with Donald Trump had on him. I don't know if they can prep him to talk or what to say or talking points, but I don't know if you can emotionally prep someone to be in a space with someone like that, which that was the part for me going in. I was like, well, I always think that about every debate, including ones with Hillary. Like, I almost think that they shouldn't even sink to his level to be on a stage with him because it just validates him. It just gives him even if I were running against him for president, I wouldn't be in the same room with him. He's not someone that's my regard for Donald Trump. And that's just me personally. I don't care that he's a candidate. I don't care that that's the norm, or that I wouldn't debate him because I just wouldn't I wouldn't care that he would call me a coward and use that against me. I wouldn't be on a stage with him. But I wonder if just that proximity was part of it for Biden. But I don't
I
know.
mean, if it was a college debating society, Trump wouldn't get invited to be in the debating society.
Well, yeah, he wouldn't meet the minimum code of ethics for any kind of collegiate activity. They all have yeah,
So, okay.
yeah,
Um, so,
okay. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
well, this struck me it's very interesting. I was reading this article about a Korean guy called Lee Sedol, who's now in his 40s.
Okay.
And when he was a teenager, he became the world Go champion. You know,
Yes.
Go is this
Yes. I know what Go is. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
chess times
Yes.
5 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's been the world Go champion, or he had been for like 20 years, right? And so this happened a few years ago. So of course somebody said, "Will you play a game with AI?"
Yes.
And he said, "Sure, of course I
Yep.
will." He didn't, because I read the whole article about it, he did not strike me at all as a kind of a pompous guy, but he felt very confident
Sure.
that he would win.
Yep.
And he lost very quickly,
Yep.
right? And he's got I mean, he's fine. He teaches, he's still who he is, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But he said something which I found very interesting about that people used to have. They were in they valued innovation, creativity, a number of words like that: originality, innovation,
Yes.
creativity. And he said that's dying out with AI. In other words, people don't they're not interested. They don't think that has value because AI can do everything. Does
Right.
that make any sense? I mean,
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
struggling with it. I think he's right. I mean, I do think.
It's okay. Here are a few things that are interesting to me here. Well, one, I didn't hear the outcome of this, but I knew maybe 6 months ago. Yeah, I want to say around January, AI was beating chess champions pretty consistently, and they were speculating about Go. And at the time, they were still saying, but AI can't. And it was almost framed like chess versus Go, and Go is still so much more complex than chess, and blah blah blah. But they were also framing it like it's also probably a matter of months, not years, before that is how quickly AI is.
Well,
So it doesn't.
he said AI knows a million moves.
Yeah,
He said, I mean,
yeah.
instantly.
It
So
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it be. But here's the thing with okay, all the tech companies. Yes, obviously they need coders. Yes, they need data scientists. Yes, they need all those uh, uh, RPI degrees, but they also need creatives. They need people who can write. They need people who can draw. They need people, and AI thinks it can do it. But I was reading a whole thing with a woman who, um, she was like two years ago when Chat GPT came out, she's some kind of copywriter. Chat GPT came out. She was very sort of confident that she wasn't going to lose jobs. But slowly but surely, she was losing clients. And when she was talking to them, they were admitting that they were using AI for tasks that they'd previously had her doing. Fast forward though, 6 months, a year, now they either are admitting that AI is not that good and it's not as there's a human element to creative arts that AI will never capture. Um, though sometimes they are still using the AI, but they just want her to touch it up or punch it up, which is kind of offensive. But she's like, that's still a job. It's still I don't have the luxury of turning that down, which is um, I don't know. And
yeah,
I mean I don't.
that's
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I am always on the side, I am never on the side of, oh no, technology is taking our jobs. I always believe it will make new jobs, different jobs. Yes, some jobs will be gone. If they were, if they were good jobs, then now they'll be good hobbies that you will still be welcome to do. But you don't have like, there'll always be ways to make money. And that's not, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, I wasn't so actually I wasn't thinking about the jobs. I was just thinking about people's relationship to creative works.
Yes.
If they get used to seeing and liking works of art generated by AI,
Sure.
is that going to actually change their taste? So
Oh, yeah, yes. No, yeah.
they're going to look at a Van, I'm talking about like 50 years time, whatever. They look at great classic paintings or then
Right,
classic, it's Andy Warhol or Van Gogh,
right.
and they're going to say, well, those are interesting old-fashioned kinds of things, but they're not nearly as good as what we've got now with.
No, yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I
right.
hope
No,
not.
I don't think they'll think that about Andy or Van Gogh. I think they will think that about our current generation of AI art. Um,
Okay,
yeah, I
yeah, I
think
hope so.
it will be very dated. It will be very like, ha ha ha, look at the six fingers. But I think, again, to me, it's more of an apples and oranges comparison of, and which I think I got from you, which is like, painting to photographs. They're both art forms. They have
Yeah,
different audiences, overlapping audiences. You can appreciate both, but you don't compare them. You don't say one. You don't. Well, I do
I'm
compare them.
sure
Yeah.
there are artists who are going to use AI in a way that it hasn't been used before, that
Yes.
is innovative and creative. That's what I
Yes.
hope. I didn't predict AI, but I thought
Yes.
20 years ago that the art of this century was going to be technologically driven,
Right.
you know,
Sure.
but I don't know what it's going to look like or
Sure. Um,
so.
my fear is still that those artists, rather than fully lean into their creative impulses or even have the opportunity to do so, will continuously be co-opted by the commercial interests, particularly
Yeah,
within the whole NFT. Because again, I don't understand that. I don't know what it is, but someone's making money off of it, and it seems to think it is aligned with the art market or art or legitimate art in
yeah,
some way, and attaching themselves to a legitimate artist is one way to do that. And the money, it's too much money, especially for people.
yeah.
So if you're a creative college kid who comes up with some mind-blowing thing, they're going to buy you out before a gallery even discovers you, and then turn you into their vehicle and tool rather than obviously promote, nurture, and sponsor you to explore the creative aspects of it. Is my fear with AI.
Well, I think so far you're right. I mean, and so far it seems to me artists who have engaged with technology in this generation are using it as if they're given a new kind of pencil, but they draw the same old thing.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
so what I think, and it happened a long time ago, but my kind of model for what could happen is when in the 60s, Rauschenberg worked with Bell Labs in New Jersey with a guy who was a very creative guy who was at Bell Labs. And he did these evenings at the Armory of events, dance, whatever. But he made the Bell Lab people basically turn themselves inside out. In other words, they said, we can't do that, or we shouldn't do that. And he said, no, that's what I want you to do. Because it was like taking the pencil and using the wrong end.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, I know it's going to sound like a mess, but I know this is not what you built that for,
Right,
but this is what I want to do with it, you
right.
see? And so that to me, and it still is mind-blowingly innovative
But
in every way.
okay, and then back to, all, it's not just tech companies, but all companies need creatives, and it's not just writers and artists to do their public facing. They need philosophers, they need history majors, and the reason corporations do, is to teach them exactly that kind of innovation, to teach them exactly that kind of thinking outside the box, that kind of using the wrong end of the pencil, that kind of risk taking and mistake making that artists challenge themselves towards, that corporate America has always been afraid of. There is a lot to be learned from creatives that the very structured corporate world, no matter the field, could benefit from if they were willing. And some of them are aware of it and know that and do things about it.
They also have to be, I think the hardest thing for them is to realize that there may be no commercial application.
Yes.
Nobody's gonna, it may not be viable at this point. It may not be, it can't be packaged.
Right.
And that's what was interesting about what Rauschenberg was doing was I mean, he was selling paintings to pay for this. People paid $1 to go in, you know, whatever it was, $5 to sit on a bench and be part of it. But it wasn't, it had no commercials.
Yes.
It had enormous significance to the creative community and the museums, but it had no significance at all to, I mean, his dealer didn't make any money out of
Right.
it. So, yeah, so they have to think of themselves as sponsoring creativity.
But and
For
yeah,
its own sake.
but you're right. It's if when they're, I mean, even in my own field, in a nonprofit, I feel, you know, in the almost 10 years I've worked there, we used to be able to lean more on our mission and say, we're doing this because it speaks to our mission, but because of various contracts we have now, because of others we have to answer to, oftentimes that's great, but how does it also affect the deliverables? How does it also affect the bottom line? And that's the world that we live in, which is unfortunate, because doing things for the purpose of doing things often has value that doesn't meet a bottom line, except in the long run it usually does.
The long run, and yes, you're right. I was going to say it doesn't add up today or this week or this year, but it may lead to something.
Yeah.
Which is very important to people's lives in the future.
Someone just asked again. I mean, I've been hearing this. You've probably been hearing this. I almost said I've been hearing this since the '60s, but I wasn't there then. But I know for a fact people have been saying this since the '60s, which is, we have so many problems here on Earth. Why do we spend money on a space program? And well, one of the answers is all the technologies that are every day in our lives that we wouldn't have, microwaves, you know, all sorts of things, bug spray that we would, you know, that we have as a result of of space programs, but also it's the investment in the future that is the unknown, whether it ever pays off or not. But not everyone agrees with that or ever has, and I get that.
Well, I think historically the precedent for that was, I mean, goes to, I guess, an aspect of colonialism, but when Spain and Italy lost ship after ship after ship, and they were trying to explore the globe, they put they have a huge amount of, I mean, they didn't know they were going to find gold.
Yes.
They didn't know. At the beginning, they didn't know, but they did it because they wanted to explore. And the same, going to space is exactly the same thing. And I'm sure out of that, they found a way to build better ships and this, that, and the other. And there are lots of technical innovations that came out of that, which were beneficial for everybody. Probably the fishing industry, I don't know.
Right, no, right, yes. Yeah.
I mean, the computer was a part of that, and it was. I mean, it was the Defense Department that put a lot of money into the research that, you know, ended up.
Well, that's where
there was no Elon Musk in 19 50
Right.
who put billions of dollars into the invention of the computer.
Well, no, I mean that's where I struggle as well because I obviously I am a pacifist. I am anti-military, but that same argument actually can be argued. All the technologies in our lives that trickle down from the military, from silly putty to duct tape to, I mean, many advancements that benefit our lives came from the military. So if your complaint is we spend too much money on the military, some of that does actually filter back into regular civilian lives, not just the protection of soldiers, which I also don't take for granted. Or, I mean, okay.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
Longlegs, the
Yes,
movie.
that's a yes. Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. What
Well,
have
I
you
just
heard?
found out about it. I didn't know.
And
Have you
you,
seen it? I don't know. Is it out?
it is out. It came out Friday. I saw it. It is very, very. You understand? You know this is Oz's movie.
Yeah, don't tell me. I know it's his movie and I know it's, what's his name?
Nicolas
I know
Cage.
what?
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Um,
So it has to be very good for me to watch Nicolas
I
Cage.
know. No, no, no. I know. He's very polarizing, and I
I
guarantee
give
you.
him the benefit of the doubt,
Okay.
but it's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie. I loved it, but I'm the target audience, sort of, because Oz in an interview actually talked about how he doesn't watch modern horror movies, and this relates to some of the later period his movies his dad did that didn't want to be making but needed to for money. And I actually remember that period in the 80s when I was closer to Elvis because Elvis was younger. Elvis does the sound is one of the musicians on the soundtrack, by the way. If you don't like Nicolas Cage, I will say this: this probably won't be the time you start. It's going to be a very polarizing performance, even for Nicolas Cage fans. It is along the lines of probably almost anyone who's ever played Joker, from Heath Ledger to Jared Leto to, I mean, it is an over the top serial killer performance. The movie got better reviews with fans. I think it's currently at 91 on Rotten Tomatoes, having briefly been at like 199 for a long time. Critics are savaging it, but again, that's how horror movies tend to go. Critics prove their I'm above it all. I'm by shitting on typically horror movies and comedies, while also at the same time sci-fi, which is also a genre just like horror, but that's usually revered as intellectual and whatnot. Anyway, I think some critics are liking it. I like it. Yes, it is a serial killer movie that has Satanism and psychics and killer dolls. I mean, it has a lot going on. I liked it, but yeah, no,
Psycho was over the top. I mean,
right, well, right.
his dad in Psycho was over the top.
Okay, and so this is important because Nicolas Cage's character is not in any way,
Like Tony Perkins, I have to
right,
say.
no, is not in any way gender nonconforming, but has long hair, which is very much explained because he's into 70s music like T-Rex and Lou
Don't
Reed.
tell me too much.
I'm not gonna. Well, okay. This isn't plot important. Okay. Well, no. This is. I promise I'm not gonna tell you anything in the plot. Nicolas Cage, but he also speaks it. He has long hair. He speaks in this falsetto. He himself said, separate from the scripting of it, he did base his performance on his own mother. So there is a femininity that can't be separated from the fact that Oz's dad played. Like that's going that I mean that plays in. And there is.
Did they do Nicolas Cage because they couldn't get Tiny Tim?
No, it is Nicolas Cage as Tiny Tim. No, it is, and the reason he's not in the promos too much is because he doesn't look like himself, and it's so they're really saving it for you to see him. And I don't, yeah, I'm not going to reveal too much about that.
Don't say anything.
I will say one last thing, and spoiler or no spoiler, there is exactly one shot of a drain of a shower drain. So, but yeah, it is. No, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm like, yeah, no, we're kind of. I've been talking it up all weekend. I went to see it on opening night, both to support Oz, but also because I like horror, and I was excited for this. How did you hear about it?
I hope I can see it before we speak next week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do that.
I wonder if it will be your thing. I mean, I know you've taken me to see a lot of horror movies, so I know you can handle it. It's not. It's more a psychological thriller. It's got a couple moments of gore and a couple jump scares. The soundtrack again, very good. I liked it. I hope you like it. Um,
Look, I've just seen Beverly Hills Cop 5 or whatever it is. Heart of Stone, which has Superwoman in it, and a plot that you could not cut with a chainsaw. The plot is so thick. Spies, thrillers.
oh yeah, yeah, okay. No, I was like, I don't know what that is. I do know what that is. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a highbrow when it comes to
Yeah,
movies,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, and actually, I mean, this again, this might,
thanks to you.
but Oz is, and that's what makes it interesting. It is a little bit of a I'm above it all, but it's still a horror movie. I am an auteur. I'm better than all of this, but he's come up making horror movies because that's what he grew up knowing, and so it shows. No, again, how did you hear about it though? Because I the part that's surprising me is, I mean, he's made 4 movies. This is his 4th movie, and they're, I mean, they get in Fangoria, they get press, but this is getting massive widespread press, and I'm glad.
I read the New York Post when I have my lunch at my desk.
Yes,
That's how I find out what's going on in the world.
what's really going on in the
Post
world.
point of view. No, scary movie. Oz Perkins, Psycho. I mean,
It's you know, all the sensationalist stuff, and
and there was a photograph of him, and he's very tall,
yes.
taller than Nicolas Cage. And
Oh, um,
yeah, there was a photo. No, and I thought, oh, I didn't realize he turned out like that. No, but yeah, so
yeah. No, yeah, good. Okay, I'd be curious to hear what you think. Go eat your dinner.
I've got to have my dinner
Yeah,
now.
have a
I
great
love
week.
you.
I love you too.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Okay.